good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Thank you for joining the session. Appreciate you giving your time for this. So, welcome to this sessions hosted by Bangalore Jug on knowledge sharing and interview preparation. We are a couple of Java enthusiasts who do share the knowledge in the Java user community. So, if you're interested in joining the Bangalore Java user group, these are the relevant information. We have a meetup group where we try and meet as frequently as possible. We also have a dedicated website for Bangalore Jug. So that is where we do keep recordings as well as the slides which we are posting. I would like to, start something, a kind of a bite-sized session on some topics which I think are important for the candidates. So I'll keep it very short, maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes at max. And, just have a quick bite-sized knowledge sharing session. So I would like to let me know if you can see my screen and I would come back to you. So the other day I was, looking at a website and I got this exception. So can you tell me what this exception is basically telling you?
The certificate presented by the website is not accepted by the browser.
Perfect, absolutely. And
so it is asking us what to do.
It actually has to do. Okay, great. Now, what is the difference if I click on go back? Obviously means go back is clear. And what is the difference when I click on advanced? What's going to happen? What are the options available? Obviously, I can, certificate is expired. I can go back. And what will happen if I take this option? That is accept the risk and continue.
You will go to the website and without certification.
Without certification. Perfectly right.
With your risk, you are visiting that particular site.
I'm sorry. Could you be a bit?
With your risk, you are visiting that particular site. Then you may get some malicious software into your system.
Okay. That is if the site is a malicious software, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But what happens if it is, say, a bank website and it's a bank you very commonly visit?
Sir, if I visit the bank and if some third party sites like Amazon or some other sites are connected with that bank, then I will get advertisements or references from that site also. It is also a headache, sir.
Yes, agree to that. My question was that, say it's a bank's website. Let's go with the assumption that there is no third party.
There could be a phishing site.
I'm sorry?
Phishing site.
Phishing site. No, yes, phishing site is there. That is all. I have a simple question. Let's take an example of, okay, I'll just open up a different, tab for you and say I'll go to SBI.com, SBI.in. Okay, very commonly, very famous Indian bank. So I will just click here. So my question is that what is this particular
that encryption, whatever that your data is being transferring through the wire is being encrypted and trusted to the very like SBI has very store.
Yeah, fine. So I have a question now. What is the difference between this site and the previous site which we were looking at? What is the difference with this site and the SBI site?
So actually, your voice is very low.
Yeah.
Oh, my apologies. I am actually on the maximum volume.
Okay. In this site, hacker can hack that our website. Why? Because there is no secure mechanism here. There we have some secure mechanism. It's kind of challenging to hacker to hack that information.
Okay, can we let's say it's slightly differently? What is happening when my browser is communicating to this expired.badssl.com, and what is happening when my browser is communicating to sbi.co.in? What is the difference between them?
Encryption of data.
Encryption of data. Okay. And what happens if encryption of data is not there?
Then middleman can see whatever data you are transferring to the servers.
Perfectly right. So, and what is that called? What
It is
the
called
activity, the act which you said,
hacking.
middleman can see.
So
Hack,
Man,
yeah.
it's called hacking.
Yeah.
man in the
No.
middle.
Yes, exactly. That's called as man in the middle attack.
Okay.
MITM, very commonly
Okay.
referred to as, right? So why? Because there's a, again, apologies for the terminology. So as we was talking about, we were talking about man in the middle attack, right? So let's rephrase it as person in the middle attack. Let's be gender agnostic. So what is the difference between this site and that one? That's called as man in the middle attack. Now, we usually talk about what is the protocol we are using here? HTTPS, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And so what kind of security does the protocol provide? We spoke about security, right? That it's providing some kind of security. So what kind of security is it providing?
So if somebody taps the data getting transferred, he cannot decrypt it.
Yes. So can we say that the data is basically going through a pipe where the pipe is encrypted?
Yes, sir.
So we are basically encrypting the traffic between, say, my computer and the website. So that is transport layer security, or as the protocol is called, TLS, correct? So now, do we have only one form of TLS, or there are more than one?
There are more than one.
Great. And could you share us what you know about it?
I think TLS 1.2, 1.3.
Yes, those are protocol versions. I am talking about what do you say? Types of TLS connections. You're right, absolutely right in saying that there is more than one version of TLS protocols, which is just like how HTTP has different versions. I think the latest one which is coming out is HTTP 3, but that's again in draft stage. But so we have TLS, as you said, version 1.1, 1.2. But what are the different forms of TLS connections? Any?
Uh,
Okay, fine. I'll not try to not waste time. There's usually two forms of TLS, which is one-way TLS and two-way TLS. Okay. Has anyone heard the term mutual TLS? Has anyone come across it, or MTLS in its short form? Anyone? Nobody has come across the term.
It's kind of authentication, right? Kerberos and MTS protocol. Authentication protocol.
No, Kerberos is an authentication protocol. You're right. I believe it was. I'm sorry. Can you tell me the speaker's name? Apologies for asking it.
This is Narayana.
Hi, Narayana. Yeah, sorry, because I remembered your voice, Narayana, but I couldn't recollect the name. Apologies for that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, Kerberos is an authentication protocol, but Kerberos is
MNTS also one protocol is there, I think, for authentication purpose. We actually last time we are implementing for one of the Bell secure connection. That time they told check
yes,
with this protocol also. We need
yes.
to see.
So
That is, I
MTLS,
remember after
yes,
that.
absolutely right. MTLS is nothing but two-way TLS. These terminologies are exchangeable. So if somebody calls as, okay, I want a mutual TLS connection, or I want a, okay, usually the most commonly terminologies would be, I want one-way SSL or two-way SSL, and then some people will say I want mutual SSL, and then some blogs or websites or books will call it as MTLS, which is mutual TLS. To give a simple primer, SSL is another protocol version which was the precursor to TLS. So SSL is the deprecated protocol version, which stands for secure socket layer. TLS is the current protocol version. So if you want to use a terminology, TLS is probably the advanced or the correct terminology. Mutual TLS is same as mutual SSL, or another name for it is two-way SSL. To simply explain what's the difference between one-way SSL and two-way SSL is, we just spoke about our browser and the bank's website, right? Just for an example. So in that case, if I go to the bank's website, the browser is effectively the client and the bank's server is the bank's, what do you say? So bank is the server. So in this case, what kind of TLS are we implementing? Any guesses?
One-way TLS.
Perfectly right. Why is it one way?
The browser is not having any certificate as such. It's only validating whether it's a CA certified or from the whichever.
Yes, yes, you're absolutely right. But the browser is validating what?
Using a certificate authority, the certificate served by the bank.
Yes, yes, that is the process. But what is the browser validating? I'll put it simply. The browser is basically validating that the server is what it claims to be, isn't it? That if the browser says that yes, this is what do you say? This is the website of sbi.co.in.
Is validating the server certificate.
Yes, absolutely right. So by validating the server certificate, the browser is basically establishing the identity of the server. Can we agree on that? That
Yeah.
the server is what it says it is. In a way, I'm basically validating the identity of the server. So that, and hence we call it as one-way TLS. Why? Because only the client is validating the server. The server is not bothered about the client, correct? We agree on that? Now, when we talk about application to application connections or machine to machine connections, in that case, is the same analogy or the same process, can that work? Or do we need something better?
Yeah, in this case, we will go for a two-way kind of thing. Why? Because my application also have a capability of checking whether it is a proper server or not, based on some
Yes.
certification or
Yes.
some
So
protocol.
see, my question here is that, is there in the case of two-way TLS, is only the client validating the server, or the server is also validating the client?
Mutually, both client validate the server, server validate the client.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that is why it is called as mutual TLS or two-way TLS, right? Okay. Fine. I think this is a good enough starting point for a basic. I'll keep it at I promise to keep it at 15 minutes, and I am going to stick it here, finish the session here. This is just a bite-sized session so that, there are a lot of people who see these things but have some challenges understanding. So I think with this discussion, we are clear on why we have one SSL and two SSL and what are the basics. Are we happy, or is there anyone who still has any questions, any doubts? Then we can at least
just one question.
Yes.
How does the browser validate? Browser is validating against what?
Yes. Yes. I will try and cover that in the next session. The reason being is, if security, okay, I'll ask a simple question. Do you remember when we were very small? Again, I'm talking about maybe 20 years back. We used to be taught those traffic signals like, red, green, yellow, and we used to taught how to cross the road, left, right, look left, look right, and then look left and cross. Or another example would be, we see those flight attendants giving us security protocols for airplanes. So similarly, security is a very mundane topic. It's very difficult. It is essential, but it is very, what do you say, non-user friendly.
Okay.
So if I get into a 2-hour session on security, you will be bored in the first 30 minutes. I can guarantee you that, because you're like, oh, this is also. I mean, it's a very what do you say, a bit difficult to understand initially. So that's why I didn't want to get into too many details. But it's a very excellent question. I'm sorry. Could you tell me your name?
Jigar this side.
Hi, Jigar. Jigar, sure. We will come to it. So I'll either try and cover it tomorrow or next week. But I will come to that. I'll keep a mind of it. That was the next topic I would have gone into, but we will cover it. So given this, I will now hand it over to Satish. Satish, if you could start sharing your screen, and then we can move on to your session. I'm sorry if I've taken a...
Sorry to interrupt. I had a question.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so like when we log in into a bank account, so is that a mutual TLS or a one-way TLS?
That is a one-way TLS, because as everyone here had a discussion, that it is the browser validating that this is the bank's website using the certificate. How it does it, how does it know? We will cover that in the next session. But it is one way, because the bank is not validating, right? That whether you're browsing from Firefox, you're browsing from a Chrome, you're browsing from a Edge, or whether you're browsing from your office computer or your home computer or your friend's computer. Does the bank check any of those things?
No, it only checks the user, I think.
It don't. No, not even check. No. That is
like when we are logging in. I'm saying.
No,
like
see, that is user, whether you are, that is in the realm of validating whether you are a user or not. See, I may go to a bank's website to even open an account, right? I may not always log into a bank's website. Agreed?
Correct.
Yeah. Similarly, when I make a payment and I'm entering my card details, okay, I can have multiple options. I can have card, debit card, credit card, wallet. All those things are there. Agreed? But in all those cases, I am only concerned about whether my communication to the server is secure. And that server can be a bank. It can be a payment gateway. It can be anything where I am interested about security. So in that case, I am only concerned about whether it is actually the website what it claims to be. That by it is one-way TLS or one-way SSL, whichever you feel comfortable terminology using. So the other aspect, we're talking about the login aspect and all that stuff, that we will come a bit later. Now, there are questions around it, or there can be ideas around it, but we'll come to build. So I hope that's clear, that why it is one way.
Another question.
Yes.
Around 10 years back, we heard a news that some of the bank servers were hacked that were running on Java and Oracle platforms. But when we go to a class, the faculty says that Java is secured platform when compared to other environments. So now can we believe Java in developing secured applications?
Okay. First of all, I do not have an idea of why those bank websites were hacked and why the blame was put on Java, because there can be multiple reasons. Just to give a simple example, if I
remember that news around 10 years back.
I said I do not have the details of it, so I'll give a simple analogy, and there's a reason I'm giving the analogy. We all buy locks from the market, right? And we get locks of different sizes, right? And I don't know if you have noticed, but there's something written in the locks. It's called as levers. 3 levers, 5 levers, 7 levers, right? So do you know what these are?
The levers are nothing but layers that helps that takes time to break that particular lock.
Yes. So similarly, if I use a 3-lever lock, in an best case or ideal world scenario, a 3-lever lock should be easier to break than a 7-lever lock. Similarly, the way you use Java, or the way you use any technology for that matter, it doesn't matter the technology, whether technology has a flaw or not. What matters is how you use it. Security is more about the usage of tools rather than the capability of those tools. So you can do something very simple, but can something be very secure? So security is not just about capability. It's more about practice as well. So to answer your question, unless we actually analyze the incident with the required amount of knowledge of the background, it would be unfair to pin a blame on a technology stack for a drawback on that. Sometimes it is not the technology which it is at fault. It is the way the technology has been used. And I'm not an expert in security. There are people who are way more qualified than I am. But from whatever I have observed, security is more of a practice than a process than a capability. If your practices and processes are better, your security automatically will be better. So I don't know if you've come across terminologies like, dev security or DevSecOps, another upcoming, and it's like a jargon usually, but a lot of people are interested in it. Or secure coding practices. There are a lot of things. And what do you say? I'll give a simple analogy, again an analogy, and I'll probably stop it there. All of us connect to databases, right? Very common, right? We always make a database connection, and so what is a good programming practice? We connect to a database and we close it, right? Very common, right? What happens if we don't close the database connection properly? Very simple question.
Data leakage is there or memory leakage?
Yes, I will not go into all that data this thing. If I open too many connections to a database, what will happen to the database?
It won't be able to take any more requests.
It will crash. It will crash, right?
Yes, it may collapse.
It may collapse. So think like a hacker, or think like somebody who's trying to penetrate a system. All they have to do is utilize the code where we are not closing the database connections properly and crash my database. The activity which I spoke about, somebody a malicious actor trying to crash my database, how is that happening?
By the programmer's mistake.
Yes, not a mistake, not a mistake. No.
It's a overlook.
Oh no, it's a missing process or a missing practice. That's all there is, right? So something very common, but the impact is something very extreme. This is just one impact. There can always be obviously other possibilities also exist. But this is just an example of why security is more of a process and a practice rather than some silver bullet as a solution to all your problems.
Yeah, so maybe I have a point to add on. I mean, I had this experience. I had this opportunity of listening to a veteran from banking industry. There was 1 hour talk or something like that. If people who are into security, the answer that they will give you is there is no foolproof security. Anything that you put it in computer, there is no foolproof security. There are easiest way to handle it. Let us crack it. Say, for example, I will tell you, the most challenging part of security is not your systems, hardware security, network security. Most of the hack today happens with a technique called social engineering. That is the technique. Can anyone tell me what is social engineering?
Social engineering is nothing but
to the WhatsApp
accessing of social networking.
No.
Very simple. Very simple. Say, for example, you have excellent safety, everything, okay, and you post a Facebook message saying that we are going to Goa party time, and we are not going to come back to home for 1 month. Is that good practice?
Bad, very bad.
Okay, so that is the most biggest culprit. Coming to the technical question, precisely what is being asked by one of our friends, his question was recently there was a issue with Java and Oracle, and why is it so? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now answering that question, yes or no, but the answer will be mostly no for 90% of the cases. 10% yes. There are languages that are not designed for security, but Java is highly secured. You need to really put a lot of work to make it unsecure. But there are languages like Node.js and all those stuff. You can be very casual, but you can make security blunder also, because they are not very much type safety. They do not have that much of check. So now coming to the specific question, of late, if you look at majority of the attacks that you see, I'm a layman in security, but I can tell you, if you read the security, the root cause of the security is two. One is people always blame that Elasticsearch breach. People looted document from Elasticsearch, from a law firm, from whatever it is. That's one. Second thing is, we see that there are some technology specific stuff. But if you look at it, particularly in microservices, we'll cover that later. In microservice, there is a lot of security flag. Now coming to that, it is not because of microservice or Elasticsearch Java that is a failure. It is because of how they apply it. For example, let us take a case of Elasticsearch. For time constraint, we'll just take one case study. Elasticsearch is a document store. It doesn't care about your security. All that it cares about is it operates on a file system. If you have Oracle database, if you open it up, people may not be able to hack it because it has its own security. You need to have your username, password, your roles defined, everything. At least to some extent it is secure. But in Elasticsearch, it's a flat file system. If you open it up beyond your firewall, what will happen? Anybody can corrupt it. And it's a rest endpoint. If we can write a simple crawl program and then keep checking for a port. The bad part that people will do, the worst case is, you should not keep your application in 80, 80 or 80. Why? When you put it in public host. Can anybody guess why? You are not supposed to put your port on 80 or 80. If you are putting Elasticsearch, I think 80, 90 or something like that. Because these are all the default port, your bots will keep checking. And the moment they are able to get into it, they will understand, okay, this is Elasticsearch. This is Apache. And then they can apply it. You don't need human for that. You are making your site more vulnerable. There are some basic things that you need to do. For example, do not expose your application server directly. You go through API gateway or go through Nginx. So if people don't follow that rules, then it is a failure. We can't directly go to technology. If you are using a technology, better read that manual properly, microservice or whatever it is, DevSecOps, but read the manual and then apply it. That is the way that you can safeguard yourself. And always think that the security is not silver bullet. Did I answer the question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. We will, when we talk about microservice, mention this topic. We'll specifically talk about common mistakes that people make in microservice.